So unless you've been living under a rock for the last 3 or 4 days, you probably watched the Spider-Man No Way Home trailer multiple times already, and you probably have already seen all the theories going around, people trying to figure out what is going to be happening in this movie. Nowadays, when you hear Marvel theories, that usually means Mephisto is not that far behind. Now listen, I'm sure you're tired of all the Mephisto theories. It's pretty much a meme at this point. We've been getting them ever since the beginning of WandaVision, but hear me out. I think I found something that might be new, kind of a new theory. It's not like what we've already been hearing about, how we hear Doctor Strange might be Mephisto. Although I do think Strange is acting really weird in this trailer, I do not think that he's Mephisto. That's not what this video is about. But I'm instead going to be focusing on the villains and how they were all supposed to be dead in their respective movies and kind of a reason of how they could be coming about in this movie. Now, before I explain my theory, I first want to tell you guys to please like the video. Please subscribe if you're into this sort of stuff. We talk about everything Marvel, Star Wars, everything nerdy, all types of movies. And I also wanted to cover the One More Day comic that this movie is taking inspiration from. This is a very controversial comic. It's kind of like pretty much hated by like the whole comic community. But I just want to do a quick rundown on it because Mephisto is part of the story. And since we're taking inspiration from the story, it just makes sense that maybe we do see Mephisto. Now, that being said, you know, MCU Marvel has taken a lot of inspiration from other comics where Mephisto has been in it. Like Infinity War takes inspiration from Infinity Gauntlet, and Mephisto plays a role in there. WandaVision, we all thought it was going to be a House of M story. Even though it does have the beginnings of like House of M and it's kind of sprinkled in, Mephisto is not in WandaVision. Even though I do think he still played a part in the birth of her kids, even because in the comics, isn't the shards of Mephisto's soul a part of her kids? And I think maybe that's where they are at. They're in Mephisto's realm, hell, at the end of WandaVision. But I want to just do a quick rundown of the comic, really quickly explain to you, and then we'll talk about how I think the trailer kind of draws already connections to this comic. So, Marvel's One More Day story takes place after the events of the Civil War storyline, where Spider-Man reveals to the world that he is in fact Peter Parker. This obviously leads to some danger as Kingpin finds out who he is and is able to go after Peter Parker now. He tries to assassinate Peter but accidentally hits Aunt May instead. So the story starts out with Aunt May in the hospital battling for her life, while a desperate Peter Parker refuses to let her die and he seeks further help. As expected, this leads to the Sorcerer Supreme himself, Doctor Strange, but once he gets there, Strange lets him know that there's nothing he could do to save her. But he lets him use some of his time magic, and Peter's able to ask for help from a number of other Marvel characters, all resulting in the same answer of no. So this Peter, being as desperate as he is, goes behind Strange's back and decides to go back in time himself to stop the murder from ever taking place. This obviously doesn't work, and there's nothing he can do to prevent it from happening. This leaves Peter to pretty much give up with Strange, and he walks the streets until this mysterious and weird little girl shows up. Peter then stumbles upon a few other people who explain their life stories to him, and Peter listens to all of them. This seems really out of place and weird, but it does get explained soon. So eventually he stumbles upon this lady who explains to him that all the people he just met were different versions of himself if he never became Spider-Man. Different Peter Parkers from different universes, if you will. She then reveals herself to actually be none other than Mephisto himself, and Mephisto says that he can help Peter with this little problem of his. But in doing so, Mephisto doesn't want the same deal he always does where it's like, you sell your soul to the devil. He wants something else instead. Instead, he wants Peter's marriage with MJ. He says, if you give up your love with MJ, then I will save Aunt May. MJ and Peter discuss this and ultimately agree to make the deal. But before Mephisto does the deal, he gives Peter one more gut punch, revealing that that weird little girl from earlier is actually the unborn child of Peter and MJ, who will now never be born. This upsets both MJ and Peter, but there's nothing they can do now, so they agree that their love is so strong that they will somehow find each other again, no matter what. So now we cut to Peter waking up in a whole different world where he has forgotten everything, but Aunt May is still alive, but he is no longer with MJ. He goes to this party celebrating for Harry Osborn, who's now alive, and he sees that MJ is there, but he doesn't talk to her, and she leaves without Peter saying anything, and the comic ends with this brand new day line, and that's it. So I can see why this comic is so hated. It kind of like just destroys the whole like 30 years of build-up of this marriage between Peter and MJ. I think like she was just starting to get comfortable with like all the superheroes. We wanted to be excited to see like what she's going to do next, how she's going to interact with all these different characters now. And they kind of just erased that, so I can see why people are mad. Spider-Man's also like this character that a lot of people look up to, and so the fact that he like makes a deal with the devil, you know, it doesn't really go over too well for a lot of people. And just another obvious thing that's like, Aunt May, yeah, she's dying, and like, yeah, Peter feels guilty about it because like it was the bullet that was meant for him. But she's also like 90-something years old. Maybe he should have just let her die instead of like sacrificing everything. But I think it was a good comic. Like, it's not, like, I don't hate it. I just thought it was like whatever. But I'm not like a huge comic nerd. And this isn't like a New Day review, but I just want to show you guys that the story that they're taking inspiration from for No Way Home comes from this storyline, and Mephisto's already really present in here. Are they going to make a copy and paste of this story? Obviously not. But I want to show you the similarities already with the trailer and this comic. So the No Way Home trailer already starts out like how our comic starts out. The whole world knows Spider-Man is Peter Parker, and this is putting himself and the ones around him in danger, like Aunt May, like MJ, like Ned. So what does he do? Like in the comic, he goes to Doctor Strange for help. And Strange is ultimately like, yeah, I'll help you, let's go do a spell. Unlike in the comic to where he says this spell is sort of like too powerful for him and there's nothing he could do. It's sort of like out of my realm to go do something like this. But in the MCU, he kind of just like, yeah, sure. Maybe that's what people are so weird about him. Like, he just kind of like says like, yeah, whatever, like this spell is nothing. He gives him like a nice little wink. He just acts like really weird. And so as we saw, he does the spell. Peter messes it up by walking into the spell and saying all this stuff. Strange can't handle it. And it's pretty much, this whole multiverse comes about by just a spell mistake, an accident. Really strange way. We thought it was going to connect to Loki, but instead it's just Strange and Peter just having a misstep. Everything I say from here on out is going to connect to my theory. And I want to point out to you guys this scene right here. I'm taking this image, and as we see in the spell, there's 2 yellow spell lines around them, right? Well, there's 3 of them, but in these 2 right here, they probably represent Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man timeline and Tobey's timeline. There's 3 lines going all around them, right? And if you look at the ball, it now shows 3 lines all overlapping each other, which makes sense on how Tobey and Andrew will come into this universe. Notice how the lines are not scrambled or intertwined. This is important to my theory, but what doesn't make sense to me is how these villains are now also in this universe since they're all supposed to be dead. Electro, dead. Sandman, I guess dead. He kind of just gets blown away. Green Goblin, dead. Doc Ock, dead. And I know people are speculating that this is the Lizard. It could be, but it doesn't really help this theory since he's still alive in his universe. He's just in prison. But it just doesn't make sense that if this spell was just a mistake, an accident, and timelines are being thrown together, how is it possible that these villains are all there at the same time? These ball of lines represent what the universe is like right now. There's 3 different universes overlapping each other. If this looks scrambled, if it looked intertwined, if it looked like they were coming in and out of each other, like lines were going in and out of themselves, and it was a really messy looking thing, I could then get how we could be getting these villains in. They would be somehow, we'd be coming into their timeline. Maybe Doc Ock at a certain short period of time somehow came in and all that stuff. But it's just not like that. The timelines are still intact. They're still fluid in motion. That's why we're going to get a modern day Tobey and modern day Andrew. We're going to see them from when we last left them. And from where we last left them in that universe, there's no more Doc Ock, there's no more Goblin, no more Electro, no more Lizard. They're all dead. And it's not like, let's say we go into a universe where Tobey was Spider-Man still and Goblin was around. That doesn't mean that Doc Ock was around. It doesn't mean that Electro was around when Sandman was around, or that Lizard was around when Electro was around. You know what I'm trying to say? If it's like, if we are in a timeline to where they're just overlapping each other, well then it just doesn't make sense that all these villains would be there at the same time. So what I'm trying to get at is that this is intentional. It is intentional, and someone meticulously and purposely got these villains and put them in this universe. What are the chances that these versions of these characters, where they're short, like Goblin was only a Goblin for a short period of time, same with Doc Ock, Electro, everyone. What are the chances that these all come about from this accident? This is supposed to be just an accident. What are the chances of that? Someone did this. Someone did this on purpose. So like I said, this was strategically done. And there's only 2 things that could have happened. Someone either went back to the timelines and plucked them from there, right? Or someone raised them from the dead. And who could raise people from the dead? What realm does that go into? That's where my Mephisto theory comes in. I think it was Mephisto that either brought them back from the dead or meticulously took them from the timeline and brought them in. So I'm thinking some point in the film, probably later on, Peter will make a deal with Mephisto to fix what's Strange, and he did. I'm thinking maybe he does what he did in the comic. Maybe he makes a deal with the devil. Maybe it's like in the comic, Strange messed up the spell. He can't do the spell, right? So maybe because he can't do the spell, they need to fix this somehow, right? So what if Peter has to go to Mephisto, or Mephisto comes to him like in the comic and says, I can help you, and Peter makes a deal with the devil. And in doing so, Mephisto, part of the deal maybe is that he brings these characters back from the dead to do some other hidden plan that he's got going, Or maybe that's just some sort of backlash of something else. I think there will also be in the point in the film where Strange references the TVA. I think he knows about the TVA. You know, he's the Sorcerer Supreme. He's supposed to know a lot of things. I think he should know about the timekeepers and the everything like that, right? So I think he's going to say a line at some point, like, he's going to see that the multiverse is all messed up, and he's going to say, usually there are people who come and fix this sort of stuff. That's what the TV does, right? They keep the sacred timeline in check. And if someone was messing with the multiverse, they would come. And I think Strange thinks like, oh yeah, we messed up, but this usually gets fixed. Just wait it out. And then maybe nobody comes because as you saw at the end of Loki, the whole multiverse stuff is all messed up and the TVA aren't going to fix it. At the end, we see all the lines going about. And remember Mobius, he's like, does he just want us to let this keep going? And so that's why nobody's coming. So I think Strange at some point is going to reference TVA, realize they're not coming, and think, what's going on? And I think he's going to like fuck off for like the rest of the movie. He's going to go see like what's going on. He's going to go out there and investigate. And then Peter's going to be like, wait, you can't just leave me alone. So then I think that's where this scene comes in. As you see in the trailer, there's a point where Strange kind of does that out-of-body experience thing to Peter, right? Where he pushes his soul out of his body. What would be the point of that scene except to make Peter do some soul spirituality searching, right? Like to go to a different spiritual realm, as in maybe hell. I think at this point, Peter's holding some sort of box, right? That box could be something he could be using to go to hell or something else like that. And I think like when he pushes his body out, I really do think that's so that Peter's spirit can travel to places that he can't go to. That's the whole point of it, right? To make his spirit go to places he can't go. That's the whole point of that thing. Another thing I wanted to point out was this part in the trailer where Strange is standing on the train, right? What's he doing here? Is he fighting Peter in this scene? Because it looks like he's like fighting Spider-Man, which would be really weird, but also back up the theory that Strange is evil here. And also, at the end of the trailer, when you hear the line, this line right here.
Be careful what you wish for, Parker.
It sounds like Strange. It does. But it has evil undertones. Listen to it again.
Be careful what you wish for, Parker.
That sounds evil. It sounds like he's saying to Parker, like, be careful what you wish for, Parker. Like, it sounds like he's about to, like, fight him, or, like, it just sounds really weird. Maybe it does really, like, it sounds like he's mind controlled by someone. You know, is that Mephisto? Maybe, except I don't really believe in that theory. But he does sound evil, you know? And if he is fighting Spidey in that, in the train scene, then, you know, then that's evil. Then Peter's always going to be the good guy in this movie, I think. So, you know, I'm thinking maybe Strange goes off to the TVA. You know, I think that's what's going to happen. Then maybe some sort of like evil Strange comes about. Or maybe that is Mephisto. Like, maybe like Mephisto, hey, maybe instead of a little girl coming to Spidey, you know, saying all this stuff, maybe it's an evil Strange that goes to Spidey and says, hey, I can help you, you know. Maybe that's what it is. Maybe that spell is Mephisto. Maybe it is, you know. And then they do the spell and Strange is able to like, or Mephisto, I don't know. This theory, saying it out loud, it's really crazy, really wacky, but I think I'm onto something. Honestly, guys, I mean, we're all just in this together. We're all just trying to figure out what the hell is going to be going on in this movie. And I think there's just so much evidence. Like, there's just too many things that, like, don't add up for me. You know, the whole overlapping timelines, how all these villains just come about if this spell was supposed to be a mistake. But I'm really just asking the questions of, like, how are these villains still alive? You know, they're supposed to be dead. You know, so if they did come alive, someone either had to have brought them back, you know, that's Mephisto, or they're plucked from somewhere, but someone did it on purpose. Someone else is at play here. It's not just a mistake, it's not just an accident. That's what I want you to think about. Someone else is doing this. I think it's got to be Mephisto. And I think they are hinting at it. Like, if you think about the rest of the MCU, there was never really hints of Mephisto, right? Only until WandaVision, the devil's in the details, this poster, all these different things. Loki, you see in the background, the Mephisto thing. Now in the trailer, we even have a thing that says the devil in disguise. They could have put anything there. And another sign says he's a menace. They could have just said that. Instead, they went with the devil in disguise. Someone is a devil in disguise in this movie, I think. I honestly do think so. And I think a post-credit scene will be with Wanda, and they're going to bleed to some Mephisto fight in the Multiverse of Madness. That's literally what I think. But, like I said, if this was just an accident, how did we end up with these guys showing up? Someone put them there. Someone's strategically doing this. So, if you have the answer, please comment down below. Like I said, we're in this together. I would like to have some sort of conversation about it. Please like the video. Please let me know if you have any ideas about what's going on in this movie. Comment them. Let's have a discussion. Please subscribe, and I will see you guys in the next video.